Well, hello everyone. It is April. I'm here to recommend some thrillers to you, so let's get into it. So I have 9 thrillers here that I want to recommend to you. This is kind of the start of a thriller book recommendations video series that I wanted to do for you guys. I thought you would enjoy it. I know a lot of you adore thrillers just like I do. So I wanted to recommend some of my favorites. Some of them are not my ultimate favorites, but I've enjoyed every single one of the books that I'm going to share with you. So let's start with the book that spiraled a new tradition of mine every summer. That is Final Girls by Riley Sager. I read Riley Sager's new book, which he comes out with a new thriller every single year. They're always in some sort of way an homage to the horror genre, usually the horror film genre. And yeah, every year, as soon as it comes out, I read it. And I love that little, it's like I associate Riley Sager with summer now. So Final Girls is his first, and it was so good. This one is about a final girl whose name is Quincy. A few years ago, when we meet her, she's getting her life back together, but she's really had a hard time of it because she was a final girl. She survived a massacre. Someone killed off many people, many of her friends at this cabin that they were all staying at. And she's, moved on with her life as best she can. She does keep in touch with other final girls, other people, other girls who have survived a massacre and were the last ones standing. And they're not like super great friends, but they keep in touch over email on the regular. Unfortunately, now someone is killing off the final girls and she needs to find out who's doing it and, try to save herself. I loved this book. I thought it was so fun, very twisty-turny, so good. Next is a book that kind of walks the line between thriller and contemporary. This is like an entry-level thriller, I would say, and that is The Husband's Secret. This was really wonderful. Leanne Moriarty, I should say, she blends those two things together really nicely. And in this book, we follow a woman who is rummaging through the stuff in the attic. She's either trying to find something or she's like decluttering in a major way. She stumbles upon an envelope that says, "Do not open unless I'm dead." And it's from her husband. She calls him and says, "What's this about?" And he says, "Oh, no, don't worry about it. Like, I was in a bad place at that time. Please don't open it. It's, it's private." She's like, "Okay, honey." And then she hangs up and she opens it. And inside that letter is a major secret that rocks her world and makes her look at her husband quite differently. I very much enjoyed it. Next up is a Karen Slaughter that made me cry. This is The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. This is emotional. It follows sisters who witness their mother being murdered horribly as teenagers. Now, one of them has left home and left the city and is trying to like move on with her life. The other has stayed back and works with her father. Now, violence and tragedy strikes again in this home, and that essentially makes the sister who's gone away, who's moved away, she has to come back. And it's that trope that some people are over, but I'm never over, which is, person has to come back to their hometown, reluctantly does. And I really enjoyed this so much. I cried through it. I did not expect to cry. That's the only thriller I believe that has made me cry. So good. Speaking of good, next is The Good Son. Now this book is twisted and creepy to the next level. This is about a man who lives with his mother. He wakes up one morning to discover his mother's body like bludgeoned to death. She was horrifically murdered. And he looks at the trail of bloody footsteps and it leads back to his own room. So did he kill his mom? What happened to his mom? What is going on with this guy? I loved that book. It was really gross. It was really twisted because you're in the mind of someone who is not always the nicest person. Not necessarily a murderer, maybe not, but it has some stuff going on. I will just say that. I enjoyed it a lot. Next is a book that's kind of gothic, very much inspired by a gothic book, and this is The Turn of the Key. This is inspired by The Turn of the Screw, which is a bit of a ghosty story. This one follows a woman who is quite tired of her life. She sees an ad in the newspaper saying that they need a nanny at their home in the Scottish Highlands, I think it is. The husband and wife are architects. So they've like created this amazing home that's like blends the old with the very new. So it's a smart home. And they're really busy with their business, their architecture business. So she gets the job and she goes to stay in this smart home that kind of turns against her. She's trying to take care of these, I think, 3 little girls, and things don't go well. It's very gothic. I really enjoyed it. We meet her in prison writing to her lawyer, or writing to someone to try to take her case, I should say, saying, I'm innocent, you need to help me out. She is accused of having killed one of the kids in her care. It was so good. I loved that book. I really, really did. Ruth Ware is hit or miss for me, but that book just like blew me away. Ooh, next up is Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Kane. This is the first in a series. I haven't gone on with the series, but maybe I will. I've heard kind of mixed things about the rest of the series, but Stillhouse Lake is fantastic. This follows a woman who drives home one day and sees that there are all of these cars, all of these police cars in front of her house. It seems that someone in a car mistakenly crashed into their garage, I think. It was by mistake. However, they open the garage and they discover dead women in there who have been tortured. She never goes into her garage. Her husband does. So she discovers that her husband is this serial killer. She takes her kids and leaves. She can't stay because she's being harassed by the media. She's being harassed by people who think that she knew about this. So she leaves and she brings her kids to a quiet town by Stillhouse Lake. Now, unfortunately, suddenly murders start happening at Stillhouse Lake, and she's worried that she's going to be kind of outed and she's going to be in danger again. She's going to have to move again. I really enjoyed it so much. Next up is I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney. I think this is her second book, and this follows a little girl who's kidnapped by a woman and a man. And she's taken, and they've clearly planned this out because she has her own new room, but she's not really allowed to leave the home in any way, shape, or form. And she's allowed to stay with them in the business that they have, I think, attached to the home. And things go down. Not very good things happen to this little girl. And I did really enjoy it. I wouldn't say that it was like my favorite Alice Feeney of all time. I would probably start with Sometimes I Lie. I loved that one a lot more, but I thought this was a lot of fun. Okay, next is A Good Marriage by Kimberly McCreight. I think that's who it is. So A Good Marriage kind of follows two characters. We follow a woman who is a lawyer. She gets a call from an old college buddy who is accused of having murdered his wife. She doesn't know if he did it or not, but she feels kind of like she has to take the case. And then we go back in time and we follow this man's wife and her perspective and her friends and their various marriages. Some of them have like open marriages, but they're all dealing with some crap in their marriages, and she's dealing with crap in her own. I really enjoyed this book. This was the first book by this author that I'd read, and it will not be my last, that's for sure. Okay, we've reached the end. We've got one more that I want to recommend to you guys, and that is The Chestnut Man. Oh my goodness. This is not for the faint of heart. If you are grossed out by blood and guts, don't read this. Don't read this, because this follows a serial killer named the Chestnut Man. Now, he leaves little chestnut figures, which is like a Danish tradition, like a crafty thing that their kids do. So he leaves these little chestnut men by the bodies of his victims. So we follow these detectives trying to track down the Chestnut Man because it doesn't look like he's gonna stop anytime soon. And they look at these little chestnut figures and they examine it, and they discover that there is a fingerprint on one of the chestnut figures, the Chestnut Men. That fingerprint is linked to a girl who went missing a year ago. Everyone thought she was dead. Is she dead? What is happening? Why is her fingerprint on Chestnut Men? This girl was the daughter of a very prominent political figure. And so we follow, these detectives trying to track the Chestnut Man down. And that was so much fun. I couldn't put it down, and it's chunky, but couldn't put it down. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this little video. I hope that you're excited for this little series that I want to do for you. I just thought, you know what? I know you guys adore thrillers as much as I do. And if you haven't heard about these books, I hope that you will maybe pick one up now. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye, everybody.